First contact with a human warship left the galaxy speechless. HFY. HFY Sci-fi Story had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. He was a large, towering figure made of living stone with glowing orange eyes. The humans could be trying to communicate with us, or worse, they could be testing their weapons. We cannot ignore this. Another counselor, Ilion, a swift feathered alien from a distant star system, spoke up. Perhaps it's a mistake. Perhaps the humans have accidentally drifted into our space. Their technology is nothing compared to ours. Perhaps, Volker replied, but we cannot take the risk. I suggest we send a fleet to intercept the ship. If they mean us harm, we will be ready. The decision was made. A fleet would be dispatched to find and investigate the mysterious human warship. As the Council's orders were sent to the fleets of the galaxy's most powerful species, the signal from the human ship continued to pulse on the monitors. The galaxy waited in silence, unsure of what was coming. Meanwhile, aboard the human warship Liberty's Call, Commander Ethan Cole stood in the bridge, watching the view of the stars through the massive windows. He had seen this moment coming for a long time. The Liberty's Call was a relic, a ship built during the final days of humanity's struggle on Earth. It had been launched as the last hope, designed to carry humanity's final message to the stars. We survived. But it was more than just a message now. The ship, a warship outfitted with advanced human technology, had been traveling for decades, its crew frozen in cryosleep for most of the journey. The time they spent in the cold void had taken its toll. There were few of them left, just enough to keep the ship running and to fulfill their mission. "Commander," said Lieutenant Harris, a young officer at the communication console, "we've detected a response from the Galactic network. It's a message from the Council. They're sending a fleet to intercept us." Cole nodded, his expression grim. "I expected as much." "They want to know who we are and what we're doing here," Harris continued. "They've requested that we land at their capital world. It seems peaceful." "Peaceful?" Cole repeated, raising an eyebrow. He looked over at his crew, all of them tense. "We're a human warship. They won't see us as peaceful no matter how many words we say. We'll be seen as a threat." "I've read the reports on Earth's history, sir," Harris said. "They've never had a warship like this before. They'll be afraid of us." "We're going to have to make them understand that we come in peace," Cole said, his voice firm. "But we can't let them think that they can simply ignore us. We're not going back home. Not yet." Cole walked to the console, his boots echoing on the metal floor. He stared out at the stars, considering their next move. He knew that this could be the beginning of something incredible. The galaxy had no idea what humanity was capable of, but the path ahead would not be easy. The Liberty's Call continued to sail through space, its engines powered by the last of humanity's best technology. Commander Cole's mind was racing. How could he convince an entire galaxy that Earth was not the primitive, fractured world it once was? How could he prove to them that humanity had learned, had grown, and that it had something valuable to offer? He knew it wouldn't be easy, and he also knew the risks. The galaxy was not a friendly place. There were many who would see the arrival of humans as a threat, an intrusion. They would not welcome Earth's kind with open arms. But Cole had a plan. The Liberty's Call was not just a ship, it was a symbol of humanity's survival, a symbol that they had fought their way through the darkest of times and come out stronger on the other side. In the distance, the Council's fleet began to emerge from the stars, their ships like shadows in the vast emptiness of space. The time for first contact was near. Humanity's fate and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The Liberty's Call drifted closer to the neutral planet where the Galactic Council had agreed to meet with the human warship. The star-streaked space around them began to show signs of the Council's fleet. It was a massive sight. Ships of various shapes and sizes, each one more advanced and imposing than anything humanity had ever dreamed of building. The Liberty's Call was nothing compared to these ships. It was a relic, a ship born of desperation from a dying Earth. Yet it had one thing the Council's ships didn't: humanity's unyielding will to survive. Commander Ethan Cole stood at the bridge of his warship, watching as the galaxy's fleet took shape in the distance. The tension in the air was thick enough to feel. His crew worked tirelessly, preparing for the upcoming encounter, each one aware of the immense pressure on their shoulders. They were not just representing humanity. They were representing the last chance Earth had to become something more than a forgotten memory in the vastness of space. "Commander," said Lieutenant Harris, his voice steady but filled with the weight of the situation, "the Council ships are within range. We should be prepared for anything." Cole nodded, gripping the edge of the console in front of him. He wasn't worried about their weaponry. They had more than enough firepower to defend themselves if necessary. What worried him was something far more delicate: diplomacy. The Council had never interacted with humans before. For all they knew, Earth was just a dying planet, home to a primitive species that had little to offer. How could he convince them that humanity was worth more than they seemed? "The communication line is open," Harris said, bringing Cole back to the moment. "Shall I respond to their message?" Cole stood tall, his expression focused. "Yes, Lieutenant. Let them know we're ready to speak." A moment later, the screen before Cole flickered to life, displaying a figure in a uniform far more ornate than anything human-made. It was a tall alien, with skin like polished obsidian and intricate markings running across its face. Its eyes glowed faintly, an eerie, otherworldly glow that made Cole feel like he was staring into the depths of space itself. "I am Counselor Volka," the alien said, its voice smooth and commanding. "I represent the Galactic Council." "You've come a long way, human. I trust your intentions are clear." Cole stepped forward, his mind racing. He couldn't afford to let fear or uncertainty show. He was the voice of humanity now. "Counselor Volka," Cole began, his voice steady, "I speak for Earth and for the crew of the Liberty's Call. We've come not to fight, but to seek understanding. Earth is not the same world it once was. We've survived the darkest of times, and now we offer our hand in peace." Volka's glowing eyes narrowed slightly, as though considering Cole's words carefully. "Peace, you say?" "Your warship does not give the appearance of one seeking peace, Commander Cole. You come into our space uninvited, with advanced weaponry and the power to destroy entire fleets. This is not the way of peaceful species." Cole stood firm, undeterred. "I understand your skepticism, but I assure you we are not here to conquer. We are here because we survived. The Earth you once knew is no more. We are rebuilding, and we wish to contribute to the galaxy, not as a threat, but as an ally." Volka did not respond immediately, and for a long moment, the two simply stared at each other through the holographic communication. The weight of history hung heavy in the silence. Humanity had never been this close to the stars, and the stakes were higher than ever before. If this meeting failed, the consequences would be devastating. Earth could remain isolated forever, its people never knowing what lay beyond the darkness of space. The days following the meeting with the Galactic Council were tense. Commander Ethan Cole and his crew found themselves in a precarious position. The Council had agreed to let humanity stay, but the uncertainty of their future weighed heavily on everyone aboard the Liberty's Call. They had made it this far, but the next steps were far from clear. Cole stood in the command center, staring at the view of the planet below. The massive city sprawled across the surface, a testament to the advanced civilizations that had shaped the galaxy. This was a world of power, and humanity was a mere speck in comparison. It was hard not to feel small. "Commander," Lieutenant Harris said, breaking the silence, "we've received another message from the Council. They want us to meet again." Cole turned slowly, his mind racing. The Council had made their position clear. They were watching humanity closely. But now, another meeting? What did they want from him this time? "Did they specify what the meeting is about?" Cole asked. "Not exactly," Harris replied. "They just said it's important. Something about a new proposal for humanity's future." Cole nodded. It was becoming clear that the Council had no intention of letting humanity enter the galaxy without close supervision. This was not a world of quick decisions. In their eyes, humanity was still a wild card, unpredictable, raw, and dangerous. But Cole had no choice. He would go and he would face whatever challenge they had for him. The Liberty's Call lifted off the landing platform once again, making its way toward the Council's central hub. The crew was on edge, knowing that every move they made would be scrutinized. Every word, every action could be the difference between being accepted and being cast aside. As they approached the Council's meeting hall, Cole glanced at his crew. They were quiet, focused, each one carrying the weight of the moment. Humanity's future was hanging in the balance, and it was up to them to prove that they deserved a place among the stars. The meeting hall was the same as before, vast, intimidating, and filled with representatives from countless species. But today, there was something different in the air. It was as though the weight of the galaxy itself was pressing down on the room. Cole could feel it in his bones. The counselors were no longer simply wary of humanity, they were testing them. Counselor Volka stood at the head of the room, her gaze sharp and calculating. The other council members were seated around her, waiting for the meeting to begin. "Commander Cole," Volka began, her voice cold but not unfriendly. "We have discussed your presence among us. We have heard your arguments, and we have considered the consequences of accepting your species into the galaxy." Cole stood tall, his hands clasped behind his back. He had made it this far by holding his ground, and now was no different. He had no intention of backing down. "We are ready to prove ourselves," he said firmly. "Humanity has survived against impossible odds. We have fought wars, overcome disasters, and rebuilt ourselves. We want to contribute to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as partners." Volka nodded slowly, as if weighing his words. "Your words are commendable, Commander. However, actions speak louder than words. We have seen many civilizations rise and fall in the galaxy. Some were peaceful, others destructive, but in the end what matters most is what you can offer." Cole's heart sank slightly. He knew what she meant. Humanity had nothing to offer compared to the vast technological empires of the galaxy. Earth was still recovering from its own self-inflicted wounds. They had no grand fleets, no massive colonies. They were a young species, far behind in terms of power and influence. But humanity had something else. They had resilience, they had the ability to adapt, to survive, and to learn. And Cole was determined to prove it. "Counselor Volka," Cole said, stepping forward, "we may not have the resources you're used to seeing, but we have something no other species has, a relentless drive to survive, and a willingness to work together. We believe that peace can be built not through weapons or dominance, but through cooperation." Volka's eyes flickered, as though considering his words carefully. For a moment there was silence. Then she spoke again. "You speak of peace, Commander, but we are not naive. There are many in the galaxy who do not share your vision. There are factions who see humanity's arrival as a threat, and they will do everything in their power to ensure that you do not succeed. You will face resistance, possibly even hostility." Cole nodded. "We've faced resistance before, but we are not afraid to stand our ground. We've learned that survival is not just about fighting, it's about finding common ground." Volka's expression softened, though her gaze remained sharp. "You are bold, Commander, and that is something we can respect. However, your place in the galaxy is not guaranteed. There are still many who see humanity as a risk, and they will not hesitate to strike if they feel threatened." The tension in the room was palpable. Every counselor was watching, waiting to see how Cole would respond. This was the moment, the test that would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. Cole took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. He knew that this could go either way. The Council had the power to cast them aside, to leave humanity in isolation forever. But he couldn't afford to back down now.
"We are willing to work with you," Cole said, his voice steady, "but we cannot do it alone."
"Humanity is still young, still learning. We need guidance, and we need allies. If you allow us the chance, we will prove ourselves to you, and together we can build something that will last." There was another long silence as the counselors deliberated. The weight of the decision seemed to hang in the air, pressing down on everyone in the room. For a moment, Cole felt as though the entire galaxy was holding its breath. Finally, Volka spoke. "We have decided," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. "Humanity will be granted observer status within the Galactic Council. You will be allowed to participate in discussions, to learn from us, and to offer your perspective, but you will not be granted full membership until we are certain that your species is ready." The room was silent. Cole's heart raced. This was it, the moment that would define humanity's future. "Thank you, Counselor," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We will not disappoint you." The Council's decision was not a full acceptance, but it was a start. Humanity had earned a place in the galaxy, not as a conqueror, but as an equal. It was a fragile victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. As the meeting concluded, Cole turned to his crew. There were no cheers, no celebrations. The battle was not over. But for the first time since humanity had set foot in the stars, Cole felt a spark of hope. They had made it. They had survived. And now, they would build a future. Not alone, but together with the galaxy. The journey ahead would not be easy. There would be obstacles, challenges, and dangers, but humanity had proven that they were ready to face them. The galaxy was vast, and its future was uncertain. But for the first time in a long time, humanity had a chance to be a part of it. Finally, Volka spoke again. "Very well, Commander. The Galactic Council has agreed to allow you and your ship to land on our capital world. But be warned, your presence here is still under suspicion. You will be closely monitored at all times. If you mean us harm, we will act accordingly." "I understand," Cole replied, his tone respectful but resolute. "We will land as agreed, and I hope that, over time, we can show you that humanity is worthy of a place among the stars." With that, the communication ended. Cole turned to his crew, who were all waiting for his next orders. "Well," he said, "looks like we've made it this far. Let's not mess it up." The journey to the capital world was short, but for the crew of the Liberty's Call it felt like an eternity. Every officer, every crew member had a part to play in this momentous occasion. The air on the bridge was tense, the hum of the ship's engines the only sound that broke the silence. As they neared the landing zone, Cole watched as the towering structures of the Galactic Council's capital world came into view. Massive, shining spires stretched into the sky, surrounded by sprawling cities and enormous spaceports. The sheer scale of the place took Cole's breath away. It was a city like no other, a monument to the power and sophistication of the galaxy's most influential species. "I've never seen anything like this," Lieutenant Harris said, his voice filled with awe. "Stay focused, Lieutenant," Cole replied, trying to keep his nerves in check. "This isn't a sightseeing trip." The Liberty's Call descended toward the landing platform. A vast crowd of alien species had gathered to witness the arrival of the human warship. The members of the Galactic Council stood at the forefront, their faces unreadable. As the ship's landing gear touched the platform with a soft thud, a wave of anticipation swept through the crowd. Cole and his crew stepped out of the ship, their boots clanging against the metal surface. The crowd fell silent as they approached the waiting representatives of the Galactic Council. Counselor Volka stood at the head of the group, her expression a mix of curiosity and caution. She eyed the humans closely, her gaze flicking between Cole and his crew. "You may proceed," Volka said, her voice cool and measured. As Cole took a step forward, he felt the weight of history on his shoulders. This was the moment, the first step toward proving humanity's place in the galaxy. The first step toward a future where Earth was no longer a forgotten planet on the fringe of space. He stood tall, meeting Volka's gaze with unwavering confidence. "Thank you for this opportunity, Counselor. We are here to build a future together." And as he spoke those words, a strange sense of hope settled in his chest. Perhaps humanity, after all, was not as small as the galaxy believed. The atmosphere on the neutral planet's surface was thick with tension. The towering spires of the Galactic Council's capital world loomed overhead, but for Commander Ethan Cole and his crew, the grandeur of the moment was quickly overshadowed by the uncertainty of what lay ahead. They had made it this far, humanity's first contact with the galaxy's most powerful species, but the real challenge was only beginning. The Liberty's Call had landed, and the crew of humanity's warship was now under close observation by the galaxy's finest minds. The Council had agreed to a meeting, but only with strict conditions. Cole and his crew were to be closely monitored, their every move scrutinized. It was clear that while they were not seen as an immediate threat, humanity's presence was still something the Council could not fully trust. As Cole stepped off the landing platform with his crew, the counselors stood in perfect formation, their alien forms shimmering in the light of the planet's twin suns. Counselor Volka stood in front, her eyes glowing faintly. There was no warmth in her expression, only the cold professionalism that came with the weight of her position. Yet there was something in her gaze that seemed to linger on Cole, as though she were waiting for him to make a mistake. "Commander Cole," Volka said, her voice calm and measured, "welcome to the capital of the Galactic Council. We trust that you understand the importance of this meeting." Cole nodded, doing his best to maintain composure. "I do, Counselor. We're here to show you that humanity's intentions are peaceful. We are not here to threaten anyone. We simply wish to be part of the galaxy, to learn and grow alongside you." Volka's eyes narrowed slightly, but she said nothing in response. Instead, she gestured toward a large building behind her, a massive, shimmering structure that seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky. "This way," she said simply. The group made their way toward the building, flanked by members of the Council's security forces. Cole couldn't help but notice the strange mixture of curiosity and wariness in the eyes of the aliens around them. Some looked on with genuine interest, while others seemed to be calculating, weighing the potential risk of allowing humans to join the galactic community. As they entered the grand hall of the Galactic Council, Cole was once again struck by the sheer scale of the place. It was unlike anything Earth had ever built. The hall was vast, with towering walls made of shimmering stone that seemed to glow with an inner light. At the far end of the room, a large platform stood, surrounded by seats that were occupied by representatives of the galaxy's most powerful species. They looked down at the humans, their expressions unreadable, but their eyes spoke volumes. This was a place of power, and humanity's future would be decided here. Cole stood before the platform, his heart pounding in his chest. He had prepared for this moment his entire life, but now that it was here, he found himself second-guessing his every word. Counselor Volka spoke again, her voice cutting through the silence. "You have been brought here to explain your presence, Commander Cole. The galaxy has lived in peace for millennia. You say you come in peace, but how can we trust that you are not just another threat, like so many others before you?" The words were sharp and they stung. The weight of the question hung in the air, and Cole could feel the eyes of every counselor upon him. This was no longer just a meeting. This was a test of humanity's worth. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, his voice steady. "I understand your concerns, Counselor, and I do not expect you to simply take my word for it. But what I can promise you is this. Humanity is not like the others you've encountered. We have faced destruction. Our planet was ravaged by war, and yet we survived. We are not conquerors, we are survivors. And now we wish to offer our strength to this galaxy, not through force, but through cooperation." There was a long pause as the counselors exchanged glances. Cole could see the doubt in their eyes, but there was also something else, something that hinted at curiosity. The galaxy had seen countless empires rise and fall. Perhaps they saw a flicker of something in humanity, something worth considering. But before anyone could respond, a sudden voice broke the silence. "You trust them? You trust these primitive creatures?" The voice was harsh, full of disdain. Cole turned to see a tall, armored figure standing at the back of the hall. It was an alien of a different breed. Its body was covered in shining metal, and its face was hidden behind a dark helmet. The creature's eyes glowed red as it stepped forward, its movements deliberate and calculated. "I am General Crix of the Velkarn Dominion," the figure announced, its voice filled with authority. "And I say we should not waste our time with these humans. They are nothing but a weak species, unworthy of the galaxy's attention." Cole stood firm, but his mind raced. This was not the response he had expected. He had known that some species might resist humanity's inclusion, but this was different. The hostility in Crix's words was clear. It was a direct challenge. "General Crix," Cole said, his voice calm but unwavering, "I understand that you may not trust us. But the fact remains, we have made it this far, and we intend to continue. Humanity is no longer the fragile species you once knew. We are not the same people who fought among ourselves for scraps. We have learned from our mistakes. And we are here, standing before you, because we believe in the potential for cooperation." Crix sneered, but Volka held up a hand, silencing the general. "Enough, Crix," she said coldly. "We will hear all voices. The Council will decide what is best for the galaxy, and we will not be rushed into making a decision based on fear or prejudice." The room fell into an uneasy silence once more, as the counselors deliberated in hushed tones. Cole could feel the tension mounting. It was clear that Crix and others like him were not ready to accept humanity, but he couldn't let that stop him. The stakes were too high. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Volka turned back to Cole. "We will allow you to stay, Commander, but understand this. You and your species are under close observation. The galaxy will watch your every move. Fail to prove your worth, and the consequences will be severe." Cole nodded, accepting the weight of her words. "I understand, Counselor. And we will prove our worth, not through weapons, but through our actions." As Cole and his crew were escorted back to their quarters, the weight of the decision settled over him. They had been given a chance, but it was a fragile one. The galaxy was full of species that had their own agendas, their own fears. Humanity would have to tread carefully, earning their place step by step. But as Cole looked out the window of his quarters, gazing out at the sprawling capital world below, he couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. This was just the beginning. Humanity had come far. And maybe, just maybe, they would find a place among the stars.